Present day. Present time.
Alright, people, welcome to day 8 of the summer of
Day 9.
Day 8. Day 8 of the summer of 619. Here we have with us again this fucking guy. He's breaking into the Skype studio. I'm gonna have to replace all the locks and shit. Who are you?
Critical.
Oh man, I love Critical, but you're
No,
not funny.
I'm QQYO, otherwise known as Kyo.
Kyo, that's spelled with 2 Q's, guys. I'm still gonna put it as a K in the description and all that, but it's 2 silent Q's. They're also invisible.
It's Kyo-laid.
Is that with 2 Q's too?
3 actually, because it's a longer word.
Oh, well, I just typed it wrong in the chat. Fuck it. We're talking about Serial Experiments Lain here, people. There are going to be spoilers, but I doubt any of you are actually going to watch this series. Because this is a rather obscure series. This is a rather obscure series, isn't it, Kyo?
I don't know if it's that obscure, but I mean,
It did get blue.
if you're like,
Yeah.
if you're like really casual fan, then you probably haven't seen it, I guess. But
Did it get a Blu-ray release?
yes, didn't it?
Yeah, it just got it. Like last month, it got
Oh,
re-released.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't really call it obscure. I guess, like, I guess I can kind of see what you mean. The casual fan isn't necessarily going to watch it, but I mean, yeah, I wouldn't really call it obscure. I wouldn't really call it mainstream either, but
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
How many people do you think would watch this anime? Like, okay.
Popularity on my anime list is 135,
Oh, damn, really?
with 112,380 members who have it on their list in some form. Let me actually go to the individual stats just for the sake of viewers can just go to Mile to see it themselves, I guess. God fucking damn it, load faster. Fucking internet. Watch this Skype call is just gonna like shit
It's
itself
gonna.
again like last time. This is actually the second take.
Yeah, this is second take.
Yeah, because it's fucking this guy's internet. Anyways, yeah, like 63,000-ish people completed it. 32,000-ish people have it on their plan to watch list, and then the rest are just like, other stuff like dropped, on hold, and, so on and so forth.
Damn. Number one still Brotherhood?
Uh, yeah, it should be. Yeah, it is. I don't think anything's gonna overtake that for a while. It's got a pretty decent lead. Anyway, so, I guess we'll start the discussion off like we did last time. What did you think Lane was trying to, like, get across? The theme, message, whatever?
The more I thought about it, the more I agreed with you that I don't think the anime actually picks a side in terms of whether it's anti-computer or it's pro-interactions with people. So, the anime... or their computers. No, but there are there's both sides of the coin in the anime where on one hand you could have Elaine staring at a computer screen for half or the entire episode, and then another episode could be her talking to did you watch the dub? Because I want to call
I
her
didn't watch the dub.
okay, I'm gonna call her Arisu from now on. I don't know, just calling her Alice is kind of weird. Like
Yeah, calling her Alice. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you call her whatever you want. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't give a shit.
I still call Ray Ayanami Ray. I don't even call her like Ray.
Yeah, I do that to anime. Like, I say their last names first often.
Yeah, it's weird, but okay. Arisu is Lane's basically only friend in the anime, and there's a lot of face-to-face interaction with them, and not the kind that you see in hentai. But um, I think the show keeps a very happy medium between the two themes, between go out and talk to people and be on your computer. You wish you.
Yeah, the show is definitely. You were talking about like Lane doing all sorts of things in different episodes, right? Um, the show definitely is multi-layered. Layer 01. Anyways, yeah, it definitely deals with a lot of things, but I pretty much agree. It sort of just deals with the whole whatchamacallit, what's going on now with our, well, this came out in like what, 98, so I guess what was going on in 1998 with the internet and humans like connecting with it, what could happen in the future, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and it does this like we mentioned before, sometimes it's just like done through literal events. For instance, Lane basically just being on her computer all the time. Most of the time, however, it's done through some sort of metaphor, some sort of symbolism, like that. The one case we came across that one time where with how the Lane in The Wired is very different from the Lane in
Yeah.
the real world, you could interpret that, even though this isn't what actually happens, like in the plot of the show, you can take that as symbolism for people taking on different personalities when they're online as opposed to their real personalities because they're too afraid to act like that in real life, for example. So it's definitely a pretty multi-layered show. I would actually like honestly I don't like to call things deep because
Hmm.
that just opens up a whole can of jokes, but I would consider Lane like a deep show. Um
Hmm.
Also, I don't think one thing Lane did it dealt with a lot of things, but like we said, it doesn't try to pick a side, so it doesn't really. It kind of gives you. I'm not really sure how to put it. It kind of gives you part of the story and then sort of lets you
Yeah. Hmm.
complete it for yourself,
I agree.
which is good because it deals with quite a few things. If it tried to like most like I don't know like let's just say most shonen stories, they don't really there's not that much room for interpretation in terms of what they get across. They just have this message and that's it. You just take the message for what it is. And something like this, it deals with a lot of things. So had it tried to like actually like really tell us something, it probably wouldn't have done too well, especially considering the episode length. That's one thing I think Lane did pretty decently well. It manages to have like a lot to it without screwing up.
I was worried about the episode length going in because that's how I just am
Yeah,
with a lot of
yeah, yeah.
with 13 episode anime. I'm like, there's a lot of room for this pacing to get fucked up, and because after once the pacing's fucked, the narrative just suffers. Dies a
Yeah.
slow death in most anime with pacing issues. But Lane did it actually pretty well. It surprised me because I thought it was because we were watching Guilty Crown at the same time. Oh, Guilty Crown!
Oh
Guilty
yeah,
Crown was so
yeah.
terrible. But we were watching Guilty Crown, and Guilty Crown had the most rushed final episode I've ever fucking seen. It's like things just happening on the drop of a dime, no rhythm, no rhyme or reason for anything happening. But Lane was a lot different, and Lane. Here's the thing about Lane, because not everything is explained in literal events, which I think is a strength that it has. It felt complete. Like once you finished it, it's like okay, that's it. Now I have to figure out what this anime was or wants me to interpret. I thought that was a strength it had over. I don't know. You mentioned shonen. I'm gonna go with shonen because shonen. I don't have a very good history with shonen.
Yeah. Yeah, if we want to make the comparison to Shonen, I guess, which is kind of, to be honest, kind of a not the best comparison.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, let's not go with the Shonen that's complete shit. Let's go with something like FMA Brotherhood.
Okay.
Okay, the theme of that show is essentially there is still the typical, friendship stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But then a lot of that has to do with like sort of it deals with a lot of things, kind of like Lane, not in the same way, but it does deal with a lot of things. It deals with morality, it deals with respecting the dead and life, so on and so forth. But it doesn't go deep in the same way. It's not open
Hmm.
ended in the same way. It pretty much tells you that um when you interpret it, you'll end up with some variation of the dead should stay dead. You can
Hmm.
succeed with the power of your friends,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Whereas Lane, on the other hand, is pretty different. you can actually think about it.
Yeah,
Which isn't to
here's
say,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is
Go on, go on,
sorry,
go on.
I just want to say, which isn't to say that you can't really think about something like Brotherhood, but it's just a different type of like a different kind of thinking.
Yeah, here's something I wanted to ask you about Brotherhood and Lane. Okay, when Brotherhood finishes, edit. Well, well, fuck it. This is a spoiler-filled video. So, when Brotherhood ends, Ed loses his ability to ever use alchemy again. His father's dead, and at the end we see there's like a little prologue. He goes to the east, doesn't he?
I forget one of them went to the east, one went to the
Yeah,
west.
okay. We know what's gonna happen. We know where Brotherhood ends,
Hmm.
and we know what's happening towards the end. At Lane, I want to ask you this: how much of Lane did you have figured out by the end?
Um, I'm trying to think back because honestly, my memory of what I had figured out, as well as the memory of like explanations that I read online and watched online, they get muddled after a while. Like, let me think. Well, I mean, I figured out that the guy, I forget his name.
Which
I'm
one?
sorry. Basically the guy who created Lane.
80?
Yes, him.
Mm-hmm.
I basically by then I'd basically figured out that he'd most likely created the Lane within the Wire,
Mm-hmm.
and that he had that one company, Takibana Labs, was it?
Yeah, Takibana
They
General Labs.
created they completed the human genome, and the human genome, by the way, was actually completed in like what 2002 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I figured that you could basically take that to mean that they made Lane in the human world because what you call it, Lane in the Wired
Mm-hmm.
is like hard to control or something.
Yeah.
So I kind of got that thing. I got the bare bones, I should say. Like,
You.
does that make sense? I
Yeah.
got most
Mm-hmm.
like the bare bones of the plot, the skeleton. I didn't get any deeper than that. I was still a little confused of the whole ordeal with the Knights of the Eastern Calculus or whatever they're called. Like, I still wasn't too sure how they fit into the story. I knew they were related to, um, you can kind of sort of surmise what the role is about, but I didn't really have like a set like idea, like this is what they're for. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
really put it together that well.
I was confused too, mostly because that ending. Well, I think it may have been layer 12 where Lane. Yeah,
12.
I love that sound effect, by the way. I thought that was really nicely done. But the one where Lane kills everyone, or supposedly kills everyone.
Resets things basically.
Yeah,
I would put it that way.
yeah. I was confused. I'm like,
Just rip off.
I was confused. I'm like, is this Lane? Is this okay? I'll call her Good Lane from now on versus Lane of the Wired. I'm like, is this Lane of the Wired doing this, or is this Good Lane because of what that other guy said before? I don't remember his name, but he's related to the question I was just about to ask you. When did you realize that there was were because I had theories about this. I think you may have read them, and I was theorizing in my head. I'm like, there's either two lanes or there's one lane, and she has like multiple personalities disorder, and she doesn't remember what she does in her other body. But when did you realize like definitely that there was
Oh,
more than one lane?
that was actually the multiple personality theory.
Hmm.
That was actually what like at first. That's what I went with, right? That's
Hmm.
what I went with for the longest time. It was the DNA line, the genome that
The
sort of
genome. Hmm.
that was really. I mean, even then I didn't fully figure it out. That's just when I started sort of thinking about it, like, huh, maybe, like because I considered the fact that there may literally be different lanes, but I didn't really want to but I kind of put that aside in my head because you also have that scene where the good lane is being like inquired by the like the how should I say the leader of the Men in Black, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
suddenly turns into Lane at the Wired.
Yeah.
So that really reinforces the multiple personality thing. But then later on, you'll get evidence that that's not necessarily the case, though. So yeah, it's sort of like so even when you get that piece of evidence, it's sort of hard to put together. But I'd say that is like when the idea was more cemented into my head.
Yeah, I was flip-flopping because of the scene where Lane basically convinces that one guy to blow his brains out.
Oh, in episode 2? Was that episode 2?
I think it was, yeah. She like randomly like she's scared and then
And then she goes up to him and says
Mhm.
something about reality.
Did you realize what was going on in Siberia about the
Oh, the club.
yeah.
Like, um, well, I mean, it happened to be related to like a lot of like those random programs they talked about, like the kids thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's honestly all I could surmise. It was connected in some way, and it was obviously weird. It had some strange influence, but I never really pinpointed what. Not to mention that as we progressed later on in the anime, and it sort of became a little less important, I just sort of stopped thinking about it.
Yeah, I had it in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it throughout the show at like random times during episodes. Like I always kept going back to that one scene where the guy takes the what is it called? Accelerate? The drug?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I always kept flashing back to that scene and I'm like, this is probably gonna be important, but I don't have enough pieces of the puzzle to really figure out what the hell is going on here. And I just generally loved all the mystery stuff in Lane. That's what kept me watching it because I'm like, okay, how does this fit in here? How does that fit in there? And okay, I was never bored. I don't know about you, but I was never bored while watching this.
Whole thing was boring. This show is shit. No action. Makes no sense. Fucking pretentious horse. Honestly, I can kind of see why someone would find it pretentious, even though I don't. Um, but yeah, Lane has a lot going for it. Something I wanted to mention as you were talking about that sort of like reminded me of something. I remember like even though a while ago I did say that Lane handled its many topics well, I do remember having a problem with like how some of the episodes just felt because it dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Aside from its like main theme, it dealt with like fucking crazy kids, techno drugs, weird shit and all that. Um, did it do with any sexual things? I'm not sure. I think it did, maybe. And
I'm
her,
not off the top of my head that I remember.
her fucking sister ghost shit. Her
Oh yeah,
two sisters. Whoa. Anyways, a lot of the time I just felt like I think overall it did a good job of handling the topics, but then there were just certain instances where I felt like, it's kind of meandering. I feel like this show is meandering from the point, whatever that point is, or I feel like this show needs to do a bit of a better job at keeping its focus. And that's kind of the point, since it's abstract.
hmm
The whole show is abstract. It's not exactly a grounded plot, but I feel like it still could have done a bit of a better job at, because, like I said, the Siberia stuff that just got pushed back to my head at one point. So I feel like it could have done a better job of like staying like. I feel like you do have to still be grounded to a certain extent. You can't just not that Lane did this, but just theoretically speaking, you can't just throw a lot of like mumbo jumbo together and then just expect the viewers to come up with something deep about it.
Do you think Lane would have worked as well, like if it wasn't a psychological anime, but still? Okay, let's. I don't know how we would do this, but okay, let's pretend that Lane is random seinen and it's not psychological at all. Do you think it would have? Do you think it would have worked if it was like Bakano? Like Bakano's the same length. Yeah, Bakano. Do you think it would have worked as any other type of anime?
Like, are you asking specifically about Bakano, or is that just an example?
No, that's just an example because it's
Uh,
non-linear. It's also 13 episodes and deals with
um,
a lot of stuff.
you think? Well, mm, some of Lane's events, not all of it, a few of them were out of order. I remember.
Yeah, I mean
For a few
the
things
story
out of
is
order.
basically already kicked off by the time you get into the anime because there's a lot of stuff that's already happened.
Okay, let me compare it to um that other work by what's his face, director, producer guy. I don't remember these fucking Japanese names.
Who?
The producer.
Which one? Which
Uh,
anime?
Lane's producer.
Oh, are you talking about another?
Oh, okay. Let me just look at his name real quick, just for the sake of
I
making this
think
easier.
it's
Um, Oida Yasayuki.
All right, yeah.
Anyways, he was also producer of Haibane Renmei, which I might have mentioned before, is essentially not the same thing as Lane at all, but it's sort of like a spiritual successor.
Hmm.
it's Lane was a lot really abstract, whereas this was really grounded. Basically, without spoiling too much about this one, um, this show basically it's not it's there's still I'm stuttering a lot. There's still that mystery feel, right? There's still symbolism. There's still things you got to figure out, but it doesn't feel like random mumbo jumbo. It feels like you know where you are, you know who the characters are, and everything is moving in a linear pace at a sort of a set pace, right?
Hmm.
And since the point of Lane, it kind of I guess not in the way you I guess not necessarily in the way that you usually think about it. It kind of mind fucks you.
Hmm.
And a lot of the way that ways that Lane gets its messages across is with the imagery,
Yeah.
and a lot of the foreshadowing of Lane is also done in ways that are, put simply, freaky.
Hmm.
So if Lane were normal, like Hyman or Renmei, those sort of dark-ish effects of Lane would be toned down significantly. It would feel a lot more normal, and I don't think that would work for considering what Lane was really going for, sort of trying to screw with your head with all this technological
Yeah,
babble.
I get you. I'll compare it to something I've seen, and I can already see the shitstorm, but I'm gonna compare it to Ergo Proxy. Um, Proxy is,
They're not similar at all. Okay, I'm just gonna go on.
oh man, I don't know, I haven't checked the Ergo Proxy video in a long time, but I get comments like almost every other day telling me that Ergo Proxy is the best fucking thing ever. But anyways, Ergo Proxy is an anime that there's some events that happen in non-linear fashion, but it's mostly linear. And okay, basically replace all the technological stuff in Lane with philosophical stuff, and go tour. It's damn. The point I'm trying to make here is, let me see how I can articulate this. Ergo Proxy is, they're similar in the way that they sort of tell their story. I think Lane is a lot more abstract, like you said, because Ergo Proxy is more of a literal events thing. But they both use these weird tools. Like okay, I think it was Layer 11 where,
Layer 11.
was it Layer 11 where we got that weird fucking recap?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was 11.
Okay, I thought
10 or 11,
I was being mind
but I'm
fucked
confident
right
that's
there.
11.
Hmm.
I said it's either 10 or 11, but I'm confident that it's 11.
Okay, because it was the weirdest fucking moment in the entire anime for me, because I didn't. Here's the thing that you don't realize, because things in Lane are not told basically in linear events, and while things in Ergo Proxy are told in linear events basically, there's some things that are left up to interpretation, but mostly you can figure out what the fuck just happened. You don't realize while watching that mind fuck, or at least I didn't realize it. I'm like, this is just a recap. This is a normal recap. It just doesn't have any narration. It's going through the entire anime, and I think that's where I started remembering Siberia more frequently as the anime almost ended, because it had clips of the stuff of the gun shot and all that in Siberia. But did you realize what that was when you were watching it?
Um, well, I mean, I got that the purpose for the audience was a recap, but at the same time, I was too concerned with trying to find an in-universe explanation as to why they were showing it to us. I'm
Hmm.
thinking like it was connected to Lane and how she was connected to the wire, and maybe something was causing her to see this. And so when you said that, it's just a recap. When you told me that that's the point, I realized, well, yeah, but then I thought about it and I thought, okay, so it's it's just a recap. And then that's was sort of where I thought, I was overthinking that a lot. It's simpler than I thought. So I mean, I guess you could say that I didn't get it when I first saw it
Hmm.
because I like yeah, I got the point of it, but then I was just too busy trying to think of like, okay, how does this play into the anime? So
Yeah. Hmm.
I guess it worked.
Um, that's the thing about Lane. Um, it happened to me. I don't know if it happened to you, but I was watching it and I'm trying to figure it out as it goes along. I'm trying to like okay. Here's the thing I was gonna bring up, but I'll bring it up now. When I saw the opening for like the second time, I realized Lane's gonna die at the end of this. Something's gonna happen where, and of course, well, Lane basically does die at the end because the shots, the way the certain shots were aligned, and I think people, I can't be the only one who's ever seen this, but the opening basically details what happens to Lane towards the end of the anime, even with the
Yeah, on the bridge
bridge.
and all that.
Yeah, the bridge, and then I think the the shot where her hat is like suspended
Flies.
in, yeah, it flies off and it's suspended in the wind. I always thought that was symbolic for either her death or her leaving something in the world, which is what she does with Arisu at the end. And then she walks away and they show her shot in the wired and then she just disappears. I'm like, okay, all right, you're gonna go on.
Hmm.
All right. I pretty much figured Lena was gonna die at the end, and in a way, she kind of does. How
Uh,
do, like, did you catch that in the intro?
um, we'll see. I don't really watch intros except for the first time, so no.
I
I mean,
love that fucking opening, by the way.
yeah, I like it a lot too. I mean, I know that before I start the sentence, I just gotta say present time, present day. But anyways, like I mean, I knew we wouldn't get like a happy ending or anything like that. You can argue that the ending is sort of optimistic,
Hmm.
but yeah, I didn't actually have it figured out at that level. But yeah, it was definitely you see, you can definitely look at this show in a lot of ways, which is good, I suppose.
I think the creators have said that because there's so much left up to interpretation, whatever interpretation you have is basically a correct one. So if you think death, oh yeah, damn, every time I think about Lane, I forget that the guy who directed it died last year. That's terrible.
What?
What? You didn't know?
What?
Did you not know that?
I actually didn't know.
Are you No, he's dead. Yeah, he died last year of like
Wow.
pain.
Okay, I don't really necessarily keep up. Well, I guess. Yeah, I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, he died of cancer.
Director, you said?
Yeah, the director's dead.
I'm looking this up right now. Okay.
He was like working on an anime. He was like halfway done with an anime, and he just went into the hospital and he never came out.
Hmm.
That really sucks.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, what I meant when I typed "death of the author" is just what the author says doesn't matter. So,
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
yeah.
Do you believe that any like okay, because there's like a solid interpretation of events of what's going on. It's like Erie created Lane of the Wired, and Tachibana General Labs created the Good Lane, and all this and all that. Do you think there could be any other interpretation, like a valid one that makes as much sense?
um. Well, I'd have to think about it. Like really think about it,
Yeah, like we'd have to
which
analyze
is
and
difficult. Um. You could probably bullshit your way into saying that the dad created Lane because he's basically like symbolizing God at
yeah,
the end.
at the end.
Yeah, which that's not what I take it to be mean at all. But
Hmm.
I know I think I might have seen some people here and there have said something like that, have sort of had some sort of yeah. I do think you can sort of take it in many different ways. Cause see, like, cause honestly, I couldn't really tell you because I'm still struggling with some of the other details, some of the details that go with my own interpretation. So
Hmm.
thinking about a different interpretation is going to be pretty difficult. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't wave aside. I definitely wouldn't dismiss a different theory.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. I read something, I didn't read the complete theory, but it was basically that Lane's father was God and Lane was Jesus. Which is kind of like, if you think about it, in some ways, like the anime, it touches upon religion, but very subtly, to the point where you wouldn't notice unless, like, I didn't notice until it was pointed out to me that there's a lot of religious aspects to Lane. And taking that into account, okay, Lane could be playing the role of Lane could be playing the role of Jesus this entire time, and what she does at the end is basically get herself nailed to the cross, and basically everybody's like the world is all's right in the world after Lane deletes herself from existence.
Wow. Okay. She died for our sins.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
Think
Yeah, I
about
didn't.
think about what Aerie did, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to. Of course, then you'd have a sort of a tough time incorporating everything else. But
Yeah, yeah, you would.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can definitely take it a lot of ways, which I like, honestly. Of course, obviously, a theory does have to have. You do have to be able to back it up. You can't just fucking say Lane is Goku from an alternate universe. No, you can't just say that. That's obviously bullshit. But
um, I was gonna ask you about this. I wonder what your reaction will be. What the fuck did you think about the aliens?
I told you once before. I'll tell you again. Fuck those things.
Fuck this. Oh my god. Those things actually kind of creep me out. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, cause at that point I was kind of like, I was delirious watching this anime. I'm like, is this really going on right now? It's like,
Didn't you say that you were thinking of giving it like 4 out of 10 at one point?